5 Live Boxing.
So welcome to the 5 Live Boxing Podcast with me, Steve Bunce. It's New York. Yes, I'm still in New York. It's the week of history. The week when Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano will set and then break their very own records. They fight for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world at the Garden. Plenty of people have fought for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world at the Garden, but that's another story. And it's, by the way, the big Garden. All the belts, all the seats, the big house. I have the promoters, Eddie Hearn and Jake Paul. Yes, Jake Paul, the YouTube guy, 25 years of age, a multi-millionaire. Jake Paul is the co-promoter. And I speak to the iconic New York writer and journalist Thomas Hauser. We always get Hauser when we're in New York. And Tokyo Olympic gold medalist Galal Yafai. He's on the bill, wandering around with starry eyes. I spoke to Galal. And Liverpool's Liam Smith, part of the Smith brother clan. I speak to him. He's in a really hard fight, a good fight on the bill. It's big. It's New York. The sirens, the smell, the subway, the drag queens. Well, that's New York. That's what New York's all about. Let's get that absolutely right. The Empire State Building, the ferries, the museums, the riverboats. What a place. And I've got to tell you, there's only one man I could choose to sit with me and dissect New York in all its glory. The fighters, the people, the place. And that man is former WBO super featherweight champion of the world. It's Barry Jones. Barry, welcome to New York.
I think people were going to say you got Paul Malignaggi, and they were massively disappointed.
No, I don't
The
care.
only man I could get was someone from Wales.
Yeah, listen, I couldn't get Paulie Malignaggi. And I wouldn't have tried to get Paulie Malignaggi, who was born in Sicily, raised in Brooklyn, and won a world title, and fought actually in Madison Square Garden. No, Paulie, I wouldn't have got. No, I've got you for the one simple reason, Barry. You've been here for big fights,
I have,
in this
yes.
venue. You've been in Las Vegas for enormous fights, not just Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder too. You were there for Golovkin and Saul Canelo Alvarez. And if you actually think about it, Barry, you've had your little toe has been dipped in some enormous pools of fighting history and greatness and giants. So you're the perfect man for this fight, trust me.
I don't want to take credit for all those fights taking place, Steve, but
I'm not giving you any credit for those fights taking place.
I played my part. I've been lucky to be involved in some big fights, and this has the feel of some of those biggest nights. It has the same sort of feel. It really does.
It's interesting that, because that whole concept, that whole suggestion of this feels like a big fight, kind of tell the people that are listening that are maybe not regulars, not regular fight fans, who have maybe only started listening to the pod, I don't know, a few days before Tyson Fury fought Dillian White. Give me an idea of what, I know what you mean, give me an idea of what you mean by it's got the feel of a big fight.
One, it's the press, because usually, especially for press conferences and certainly for weigh-ins, they're in small little venues, like a conference, a little room in a hotel, something like that. It's like a suite in a hotel, aren't
Absolutely.
they? You know, for smaller fights. Even world title fights, Steve, you've seen that. The little back rooms of the arena. But when you have a big fight, they get a theatre. Like Carl Zaghi versus Hopkins, they had the theatre in Planet Hollywood, and it was packed out. Just people wanted to be there, and you get that. Obviously, the Ricky Hatton weigh-ins have been iconic over the years, and the big fight feel for that. And this is the same. You know, we're underground here in Madison Square Gardens in an arena that shows world title fights itself. And all the world's media are here. Not just boxing media. There's others as well, and that shows that when it's a big fight, when it transcends the sport.
Yeah, where we are actually, we're underneath, directly underneath Madison Square Garden. It's the basement. And years ago, in the 70s and the 80s, this arena opened in the late 60s, Madison Square Garden. This was called the Felt Forum. And there were some fantastic fights down here. And in recent history, some really great fighters have been down here. Yeah. Michael Conlan boxed down here in his debut, was led to the ring by Conor McGregor. Golovkin fought, I think, Matt Macklin in this very room. There's been some brilliant... Lomachenko fought down here. And why I'm giving you those names is just to say that those names we mentioned there are some of the biggest names in boxing at the moment. You know, Lomachenko, Rigondeaux, at their peak, Golovkin, all of those were either number 1 or 2 in the world, pound for pound, across all the weights. Yeah. And yet they fought down here. Katie and Amanda Serrano are not fighting down here, Barry. They're fighting up there. By the way, we tried to get upstairs, and my friend Larry Torres, who works here at Madison Square Garden, who's been fantastic to us at the BBC, he said, "I'm afraid I can't because a singer, I won't name him. He's hired the entire arena, and he can't have anyone there in case we're spies and trying to work out what he's going to open with. So that's why we're down here in this Hulu theatre." After the press conference discussing the fight. Okay, let me ask you this quickly about the press conference. You saw the two women together. You were really close. You got a good close look at them. Could you tell anything about their body language or from their body language, Barry?
Body shape, Steve, more than language. Serrano's a naturally small, a boxer, a naturally smaller weight.
So we're told.
Smaller weight. Well, I thought for me, like, who's going to win or lose the fight? I thought that was a big factor in it.
Sure.
But she had pumps on. She had trainers with big heels on. So she looked taller than Katie Taylor. I'm not sure that's going to be the case on come Saturday night. But she looked muscular. I mean, she looked bigger around the shoulders and the arms, and that was a bit of a shock because I thought Katie's been a career lightweight and not that small for it either. She's grown into the weight, so she's comfortable at it. And I thought that was a big difference, and you can see where the power comes from as well. Because if you see the back of Serrano, because all punches have massive backs, the traps, they're all huge, and she's big around the back, and you can see where the power is. See why she knocks a lot of girls and hurts a lot of women when she's in contests. So I think why wouldn't they be supremely confident? They're the top three pound for pound women on the world. Yeah. With Chrissy Shields in the mix there, and you can put them where you want to in that order, but. They are the best. It's the best fighting the best.
Just to explain a little bit more what Barry's saying about is that this is not a natural lightweight, and Katie Taylor's been a career lightweight. That means she's boxed at that weight, well, for as long as I've known her, really, to be honest with you, probably 18 years or so. So she's been at that weight an awful long time. Serrano hasn't. And what Serrano's managed to do, she's won world titles at 7 weights. Okay? Now, those weights are spread across 25 pounds in weight. But unlike, say, Manny Pacquiao, who did the same type of thing, she didn't move up through the weights over years. So, for instance, Barry, there's a period between 2018 and 2019 when she wins the WBO light welterweight title. That's 140 pounds, 10 stone, yeah? And then she wins in her next championship fight. She wins the super flyweight title, right, which is, as far as I can make out, 115 pounds. Is that correct? Is that your sum?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, but that's the weird.
That's bizarre.
But that was a little bit of the worry for Saturday night fight. The fact that if she can go down to super fly after boxing at feather and super feather and then move back down to super fly. What is a natural boxing? Not a natural walking around weight, because we all know boxers that could be anything. What's a natural fighting weight?
But then you saw her today, as you said, and she doesn't look like she's not tight. She doesn't look like she's she's
out of the depth.
20 pounds smaller than Katie.
What she doesn't look like is that she could ever make super fly.
I'll give it that.
You couldn't see it, but she did it somehow. But the fact but we tend to think that she is a sort of a featherweight.
Yeah.
Now. The thing with women's boxing, but they get a harder task than the male boxers, is that no one has an issue with women moving up 2-3 weights. But if men do it, it's like a phenomenal and almost impossible task. But when women do it, like Natasha Jonas recently, going from pretty much, I know she boxed Katie Taylor lightweight, but really from a super featherweight to a super welter now. So you get with the times, please.
Sorry, brother.
With a super welterweight, like. If that was a male fighter doing that, it would be Hall of Fame stuff.
And then knocking a woman out.
And then knocking out with one of the easiest fights that she's had. I think the fact that that Serrano is around about a natural featherweight, though she looks big for it.
Yeah.
And she's going to need all she got physically to push Katie Taylor back.
Well, the good thing is, somehow, this fight was made. There's been talk about it for a long time. And in fact, Katie Taylor was saying at the press conference here, there wasn't very much at the press conference. Well, there was one thing, which we'll talk about later in the show. That Katie Taylor said here that this fight was meant to happen 2 years ago in Eddie Hearn's backyard in one of those fights I covered when there would have been 70 people. That's when it could have happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago in August of, or nearly 2 years, August of 2020 in Eddie Hearn's back garden, his childhood back garden with 70 people. Instead, there's going to be as many as 18,500 people. It's a fight where the two women are both making 7 figures. Jake Paul, the co-promoter, has said, we'll upgrade it next time to 8 figures. It means a lot. Now, I caught up with Eddie, Barry, because I was working hard today whilst you were swanning around signing autographs and posing with different people you met on the street. Have a look on Twitter if you want to get the meaning of what I've just said there. Anyway, whilst Barry was floating around, I was actually doing some work, and I caught up with Eddie, and he's been a very excitable man all week. And I put it to him that we've been getting closer and closer to this for an awful long time. 2 years, 3 years, it's finally here.
And thank God we didn't do it 3 years ago, Bunsen.
Absolutely.
Because we would have been in this arena rather than the big arena.
That's a good point.
And it would have been a great fight, but it wouldn't have been what it is on Saturday, which is just, not just the biggest female fight of all time, but one of the biggest fights of all time. And I cannot believe the momentum this fight has, the media coverage that is here this week, the buzz that is around, the job that BBC are doing. Good on them for supporting such a historic event. And we can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited for Katie.
Ed, have you been involved with a fight this big that's had, and it sounds like I'm over-egging it, this much love from everybody, from a city, it's
from an
ridiculous.
industry.
From an industry,
we work in an
great point.
industry where people are desperate for others to fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And actually here, you probably still have got a little bit of that, but genuinely, the boxing business, the sports business, the entertainment business, the media business, the fashion business, everyone, you see WWE come out with showing huge support, all their athletes.
I've seen the films they've made.
But let's just break it down, Bunsey. Katie Taylor, in 2002, walked into Bray Boxing Club. Well, she didn't walk in because she wasn't Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
She was Kay Taylor.
Yeah.
You know why? Because women's boxing, girls' boxing was banned in Ireland. They'd put a head guard on her before she walked in the door to pretend she was a boy.
Yeah.
For a lot of her amateur career, she competed as Kay Taylor,
Absolutely.
as a boy, fighting other boys. And they could only take the head guard on when she left the venue. Fast forward a few years, she campaigned to the IOC to allow women's boxing in the Olympics. She had to perform an exhibition fight in front of the IOC committee to allow women's boxing in the Olympics. They watched and said, wow, you're in.
And they looked down their nose at her as well. She
course,
converted them during the fight, during the exhibition fight. You know that story?
Yeah, they said, we'll give you, do an exhibition and then we'll say no.
I'm going to read you a quote Katie Taylor gave me in 2010 when she came on my old BBC London show. You remember that old beauty? Yeah. That seems like 100 years ago.
On since then, Bunsen.
Thank you very much. Anyway, she said to me, and this was at the time, the amateur boxing authorities had just got boxing into the Olympics. It was going to make its debut in 2 years' time, London 2012. But they'd come up with a little idea. They said, you know what we need to do with the women? We need to put them in miniskirts. Absolute truth. And she said, in 2010, 12 years ago, we've got morals that go above marketing. This woman has been a pioneer's pioneer for over 12 years.
Well, I know that because she's turned down millions of dollars in marketing over the years, Bunsey. So, Katie Taylor, she's not interested. Want to use her for brands and going out and spreading messages she doesn't believe in? No. Right? Appearances that might affect her training camp? No. This is someone that has just dedicated her entire life to these kind of moments. And I was actually thinking, I'm going to say at the press conference today, this is a very important moment, especially someone with 2 daughters.
Yeah.
That, they look at Katie Taylor with nothing but unbelievable admiration. In a world of social media and Instagram and likes and TikToks, I want my kids to look at Katie Taylor and go, look, if you believe in something, if you love something so much, if you want something so badly, no matter what barriers and boundaries are put in front of you, you can achieve anything. But actually, it's inspirational to me, to you, to young boys. This is a story that resonates worldwide, not just to young female athletes. Now, the fact that they're female athletes, even better. But, broadcasters, commercial organisations look at women's sport as almost a box to tick, rather than it being there on its own merit. Now what do you say when a fight like this drives viewership, drives subscribers, puts bums on seats, sells out Madison Square Garden? that gives it a sustainable future.
Yeah.
And that's what Katie Taylor's ever wanted. She didn't want to be there because she was a woman. She wanted to be there because she was good enough.
Yeah.
And that's what this fight represents.
Now, in the build-up to this fight, the original build-up to this fight, you were dealing with, this guy or that guy, and then it was this guy and that guy. Well, in the build-up to this fight, the actual fight, you're dealing with a young man, a kid. He's 25 years of age. He's a bit enigmatic, Mr. Jake Paul. How's that been? Because that's a totally different world. Totally different world to the one that you're not an old man. I'm not really an old man. Totally different world to the one that you and I know.
It's been really good. I mean, again, Jake Paul's not been in the sport long enough to be tarred by the angry brush, or the bitter brush, which so many people have. And you just, with Jake Paul, you let him go. People keep saying to me, do you like Jake Paul? I said, I haven't really thought about it. I'm using him. Yeah. He's using me.
Absolutely.
But we both have the same ambition, which is to make this fight a fight you'll never forget.
Yeah.
To provide an opportunity for our fighters that will change their life forever. And we share those goals. And he's been fantastic. He hasn't clowned around.
No.
He hasn't messed around. He hasn't tried to steal the limelight. He's fallen in love with the sport, as so many of us do. And he's desperate for Amanda Serrano to win this fight. And guess what? I'm desperate for Katie Taylor to win this fight. So us two, on Saturday night, will shake hands and look around inside Madison Square Garden and say, we were a small part of this.
Yeah.
He's been on this journey for 10 months or 12 months. I've been on this journey with Katie for 6 years since she walked into my office. So I don't really care about him, care about Amanda Serrano. They've done a great job. I hope everybody leaves the venue safe on Saturday night. We just want to win. That's all.
And then I've got to ask this, and I know it's the case with you, but at that point when they start to walk out, and you're either walking with Katie or you're in the ring, you'll look around at those lights. We've done it with Joshua when there's 80, 90,000 in the arena. We've done it when the stars are out in Saudi. You must stand there in that ring and think, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah, I might cry.
Suck it. Yeah, you might. There we go. That's what I'm getting at.
I've been thinking, when Anthony Joshua boxed at Madison Square Garden against Andy Ruiz, that was the only other fight I've ever co-promoted here. And I wore a tux and a bow tie, right? I walked home that night from here to the hotel, took my bow tie off and went, one, I could be sick, and two, I'm never wearing a bow tie to another fight again. But I said to myself, it's Madison Square Garden. You've got to wear a tux and a bow tie. And when I came back, and when I was packing earlier this week, I thought, it's Madison Square Garden. You've got to wear a tux. And I thought, no, I'm not wearing a tux because I did that last time. But then I remember that Katie Taylor beat Pursoon on the undercard of that fight.
Okay.
So I'm wearing a tux.
So you actually had the bow tie in there.
And I went,
it was there.
And it just came flashing back. AJ getting up, going back to the corner.
Yeah,
but I remembered Katie Taylor won on the same night. So Saturday night, I'll put the tux on, I'll stand in that ring, I'll watch Katie Taylor walk, I'll look up at the beautiful Madison Square Garden signs, and I'll be extremely proud because they laughed at us. They laughed at us when she debuted at Wembley in November 2016. They laughed at us when she started headlining shows. They laughed at us when we said, we're going to the big room at Madison Square Garden. And now, and I told ESPN, and I told Bob Arum, you go on the same night as us on April 30th, you will not get a peep of coverage. And we're seeing it unfold before your eyes. This fight, one of the biggest in boxing, and we'll be extremely proud. The proud stuff's nice, right? The legacy's nice. The history's nice. Got to win, Buncey.
Yeah.
Got to win. It's sport. The only thing that matters is winning. Taking part is beautiful. Making history is beautiful. Creating memories, even better. Got to win.
Eddie Hearn there, Barry, who's been, let's tell the truth. He's been a pioneer when it comes to promoting women. He's backed them. He's put on a lot of hard fights. Some of the women maybe were not necessarily worthy of what we would classify as world championship material, but they gave us 10 good rounds. So in that sense, that stuff's not up for debate. One thing that, and I should have maybe talked about this at the top of the pod, but I didn't. One thing that is worth talking about is that bet that Eddie and Jake Paul had. And I don't know what I feel about it. Tell me what you think about Eddie and Jake Paul had a bet. They shook hands for £1 million. They would pay each other £1 million if their fighter lost.
I think it'd be better if they offered it to a charity. I think to be fair.
Jake Paul did say at the end, as everyone was leaving, oh, Eddie, and by the way, if Amanda wins, I'm giving Amanda your $1 million. Which was
that's fair. Listen, to be fair to Jake Paul, like I'm not from his world, obviously, because I'm old.
You're going to like him, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that. What I would say is that he's pushing for his fighter tremendously well, more than I've seen anyone push for any fighter before. To be fair, no, and and willing to sacrifice, because a promoter needs to make they make a living from promoting fights and taking the lion's share of that promotion.
Absolutely.
Of TV and the gate, and that's their job, that's their business, and I don't begrudge him that at all. But he's not doing it that way because he's independently wealthy already. He can literally say, I want to, he's got a cause.
Yeah.
I want to push this one particular fight, women's boxing, but there's one particular fighter, Amanda Serrano, and I wanted to maximise her earning potential.
Yeah.
And he's done it. To his credit, he's done it.
Barry, let me just tell you a funny story. It's not a funny story, really. In 2015, when Amanda Serrano had won 5 world titles, or world titles at 5 weights, she was defending her title on a major American broadcaster, okay, and she was getting $17,500. 6 months later, another boxer who had won world titles at 5 different weights was fighting a guy who wasn't even a boxer. He was a crossover athlete from UFC, and that person got $100 million. That was 2015. That, of course, was Floyd Mayweather getting $100 million against Conor McGregor, and there was Amanda Serrano getting $17,500. So when you say that about Jake Paul, you know what? He is pushing for his fighters. And he said there, and I mentioned it earlier, he said next time they fight, if they fight in a rematch, let's give them 8 figures, not 7 figures. He's setting records.
Yeah, but that's unachievable. But I would say this, being a former fighter myself, anyone like that comes in, a new person like that comes into the sport, if it's good for the fighters, we're all for it. And we really are. We have to admire that.
We do have to indeed. I'll tell you what we'll do now. Let's have a little listen to Jake Paul. I caught up with Jake Paul. But let me just tell you something. It's not easy getting Jake Paul, okay? I had to pull some serious strings with the people around him. Big Dave, Nick Issa, Larry Torres here, Ant Lever. I played every single ace card I've got. I finally trapped him, and we got him in a stairwell. So if you're watching a visual version of this, you'll say, Bunty, that's the worst place you've ever done an interview. It might be, but we got Jake Paul, and he was in absolutely fine form. And he's aware that this is a legacy event, a fight, a part of boxing history. I love Jake Paul's enthusiasm.
It's fairy tale. It really is a movie. And we're writing the script, and it's only getting better. This is just chapter 1, so it is pretty crazy. But I guess that's just like dedication, hard work, and really committing myself to something.
What is it like getting to know Amanda Serrano? Because obviously, last few years you've been surrounded by all sorts of fighters in and out of your life. But getting to know Amanda, what was it about her that attracted you to Amanda Serrano, the boxer?
I think we shared a lot of similarities with, having a chip on our shoulder and wanting to prove everyone wrong and knocking people out. She's explosive, very aggressive, and she believed in me, since my first fight. And is just such a sweet person outside of the ring. Such a nice human being, and she's inspired me, to become better. So we clicked from day one.
So she believed in you, but then the way she turns it around is that you believed in her. So it was a mutual belief society.
100%, and that's what a great friendship is at the end of the day. And most valuable promotions is cool. It's a business and all that, but I don't want to work with people I don't like. I don't want to just be money hungry. I want to do stuff that matters and that I'm passionate about and help people that I care about. So we're not just like signing any random people or doing like some crazy business like the Mayweather promotions where we sign 100 fighters and then don't do for them. We have an intimate relationship with all of our fighters, 2 fighters now, and that's why I think it's been so successful. And we've gotten Amanda this fight, and it's massive.
So you spent a bit of time with her before her last couple of fights. You've been around her. You've got to know her. Has she changed? Have you seen a switch in the Amanda Serrano personality in the build-up to this fight? Because this is not a big fight. It's the biggest fight.
Yeah.
Have you seen a slight switch?
I see a more confident Amanda.
Good.
I feel like she's finally happy with what she's getting and how she's being treated and the spotlight and the pay, and that has just made her happier, more fun. This week we're just joking around. I'm seeing this like funny side of her personality come out. She's I think growing into her own skin and learning herself even more. So it's cool to see.
Now, you're used to people pursuing you, paparazzi, people putting microphones in your face, having to do a million single sound bites on each event that you go to. That's your game, Jake, and you're the king of it. We talked about this.
Thank you.
Okay, but how has she been coping with what you do normally?
she's getting used to it. She's going, I don't know how you do it, Jake. I don't know how you do it, Jake. All these cameras. I don't know about all this. I can't even go outside anymore. So I feel like it's bittersweet because, you know, that's what every fighter wants. But then, you know, when you get it, you're kind of like, well, it wasn't so bad before. You know, fame is a double-edged sword. So, you know, I think she likes it, but at the same time, she's like, this is a lot of work. I kind of just want to fight. I just want this to be over with. So, you know, she's getting used to it, though.
And finally, you're a promoter, you're a boxer, you're a person, you're high profile. But do you think, just before the first bell, you'll just take a second, just have a look around that arena and think, I helped make this happen?
I think so. I think for sure it'll be a special moment, and especially walking out with Amanda, getting to see and feel the energy of the crowd. It's going to be surreal, and I can't wait. I'm you know, starting to get goosebumps even just thinking about it.
Barry, Jake Paul. Okay, I'm going to say it. I've been a big fan of Jake Paul's because I've watched him fight closely. He's a better fighter than anyone gives him credit for. He is, I believe, the best 6-bout novice in the world. Don't even discuss it. Let's not even discuss it. Novice in the world. Let's forget that. Let's avoid all chat about Tommy Fury, and let's talk about his genuine enthusiasm for this event that he's part of. It shines.
It does, and I think that's important. About what you said about him being the best. That's ridiculous. But he
no, best 6-bout novice.
No, that's still wrong. But still, no, it is still wrong. But
Chevon Clark.
But he works hard, and he works hard at this as well, promoting whatever he
Massive.
He's one of those guys. He's like any real successful person. Whatever their focus is, they put 120% into it, and he does that. And he's doing it with this boxing game now, whether he's playing or not. He's fully committed, Steve. And the enthusiasm, it resonates off him. It really does.
And he's in awe of Amanda Serrano's FX, and she's in awe of his ability to generate the type of cash and promotion and profile she could not have believed in. She could not have believed in it whatsoever. Well, 1 second. Thanks very much. Just 1 second. In fact, I'm going to play a bit now with a New Yorker. So please give me 30 seconds, and I'll be
Listen,
out.
Mate, listen. I can't knock you out, but I'll take your side and beat you on points.
I knew this would happen. We're in the Hula Theatre. It's emptying out, and I feared this might happen. We might have to move out. In fact, something like this happened with the guy that used to do the pod with me before the Ruiz and Joshua fight in the same arena. So what we'll do, Barry, we'll make our way outside. But I also caught up. You might have seen him floating around. Thomas Hauser, a New York icon, a writing journalistic legend, a gentleman, a man that's in many ways shaped the way a lot of people think, not just about boxing, but especially about Muhammad Ali, because his seminal book, his massive Ali biography, came out. And I called up with Thomas and sat with him, and it's always a pleasure to sit with Thomas when I'm in New York. And I started by asking Thomas if he could have possibly imagined that one day he'd be a couple of days away from taking a seat at ringside in front of what hopefully will be a capacity house to see two women boxing. Here's Thomas Hauser giving us his little touch of history.
There were signs long ago that women's boxing might become more than it was. You had $1 Million Baby, which brought it closer to the mainstream in the same way that Rocky did for men's boxing in 1976. But up until now, most of the fights that got attention were blips on the radar screen. You had Jackie Frazier and Layla Ali, who were there because of their famous fathers. You had Christy Martin, who got on the radar screen because she was on Mike Tyson undercards. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano have done it on their own. And this is a very important fight for women's boxing. You know, there are times when it's hard to take women's boxing seriously. John Shepard, who owns BoxRec.com, which is a wonderful site.
We can give that a plug because I'm on your side. I agree.
Wonderful service to the boxing community. Ran some numbers last year. And he determined that there were more available women's championships handed out by the world sanctioning bodies than there were active women's boxers.
Yeah.
Now it's hard
That's a damning figure.
It's
That's a
hard to
damning
take a
figure,
fight
Thomas.
like that or a sport like that seriously, but Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano are legitimate fighters. Forget the 7 titles or whatever it is that Amanda won in all these different weight classes, because some of those were given out like trinkets in a gumball machine. Amanda Serrano can fight. Katie Taylor can fight. They have their own constituencies. This fight certainly is being looked at as a symbol of women's empowerment, and it's a good fight. That's the bottom line.
absolutely.
Forget the hype, forget the $1 million purses that they may or may not be getting.
It's a nice line,
It's
7
a good
figures,
fight.
Yeah, it's not only a good fight, and what tends to happen, certainly in Britain, because we have an awful lot of women's fights and world title fights, is that we're not getting the quality of a Serrano and Taylor for a world title. But over 10 2-minute rounds, we're getting a really competitive fight, even if one of the women's had 11 contests and the other woman's had 7 contests. And it's not Lomachenko. It's not Mrs. Lomachenko against Mrs. Usyk.
Right.
It's not that type of fight. But they are throwing up fantastically competitive, I don't want to say novice, but perhaps not, certainly not, it may be getting close to the old-fashioned concept of a contender. We might be getting closer in Mao terms.
I have long said that I would rather see 2 club fighters with 9-6 and 8-5 records fight each other than to see some guy who's being groomed and is 19-0 fighting somebody who's 3-14.
Absolutely.
I want to see good fights.
I'm on your side completely.
And the women have given us some good fights. Now, that said, I think it's demeaning to the sport when somebody who has minimal qualifications, doesn't know where to hold her hands, can't punch, doesn't know how to slip a punch, is labeled a champion.
Yes.
And of course you have that in the men's division also, but to a lesser degree. Boxing needs to get to a point where we have legitimate champions, both the men and the women, and Taylor Serrano is a step towards that goal for the women.
Yeah, I completely and utterly agree. Now, Serrano's New York. I mean, I think she was born in Puerto Rico. Came here when she was a baby. She's New York based. She's New York through and through. And Katie Taylor's a bit sort of global at the moment. She's not really. She's obviously Irish. She's not really living in Ireland. She's spending most of her time in Connecticut. What do you imagine it would be like upstairs on Saturday night inside there with a sellout? We're told. What do you think it would be like?
I would suspect that the crowd will lean towards Serrano because of the huge Puerto Rican population in New York City, and that could have an impact on the scoring of the judges. We all understand that judges, respond to those things.
Absolutely.
Now, Katie won a decision in her first fight against Delphine Persoon
Up here,
that
of
was
course.
certainly questionable, and there Katie was looked at as the house fighter. In this instance, Amanda might be the house fighter. I hope we get good, competent refereeing, good, honest scoring if it goes to the scorecards.
Thomas Hauser there talking about his city, his venue, and that ring, the big fight. Hauser on the big fight. As you can tell, we're outside. There will be sirens any second now. There will be noise. There'll probably be a call for an Amtrak train. I'm outside, and it's a very lively, odd mix here on West 33rd Street and 8th Avenue, otherwise known as Joe Louis Plaza, in honour of the great American heavyweight. There's a variety of people sitting around. Some people look like they've just left the office to buy a hot dog. They're selling hot dogs over there and hot sausages and knishes and pretzels. And then there's also a lot of homeless people here. There's a guy with no shoes on talking to some pigeons. There's another guy asleep. I mean, this is a very mixed area of New York. Barry, we're outside. It's New York. The sun's out. There are other fights on the bill, remember. It's not just the 2 women. There's plenty of other fights on the bill, and there's British interest on the bill. We'll hear from Liam Smith and Galal Yafai in a moment. But you did something years and years ago when you were just a young kid. You fought on a massive undercard. First fight in the afternoon.
I did see there was only 5 fights on that bill in Old Trafford. That was Ben and Eubank 2, wasn't it? The big revenge.
42,000.
It was a especially for the young. I was 19 years of age, undefeated. Boxed another undefeated kid called John White and beat him on on point, predictably, which is my career. But yeah, for the young kid or anyone like the boxing undercard of a huge event in a massive arena, it's dream come stuff. It's dream true come stuff. It really is, and it gives you an insight because you're around those big name fighters in what it takes, how to act
that's
for the
really
build up.
important.
It's hugely important.
Well, Liam Smith's no stranger to big events. He's no stranger to headlining enormous events, as he talks about in this interview. But I grabbed hold of Liam a little bit before it all started, just so it was nice and relaxed. And I asked him what it was like fighting, not just here in the Garden, but fighting and knowing that the main event, the people that are going to follow you to the ring, are two women as the main attraction.
It just felt like what it is. It felt like a huge show. It felt like maybe not as big as a Canelo build-up, but without being disrespectful.
But that's Canelo, yeah, of course.
Of course, he's just a different draw. But you know a big fight when you're around a big fight, and this has felt like a big fight, and especially the last couple of days with everybody arriving. I've been here since last Thursday, so it was first few days was quiet, but now it's its own the magnitude of this event.
You mentioned that Canelo thing. Now, I remember when you went over for the press conference for that, and there was more people at that press conference than most people get to fight in front of. It was just Canelo's just a different level like that. Just a different thing, isn't it?
He is, yeah. I remember saying about Anthony Joshua. People thought that was big, and I just thought, it's still not a Canelo Alvarez thing. He's just, and he's getting better and better with the more he's speaking English. His events are getting bigger and bigger, and he's just a star, to be fair to him.
He's speaking English with a Scouse sense of humour. No, he is. He's like a comedian. Yeah, he's a comedian.
He's good, yeah.
This is an important fight for you. Let's put it that way. It's not a make or break fight. It's not a career defining fight, but it's a really important fight for you. You win this, and there's an awful lot of stuff out there for you. Is that fair? Is that fair to say? It's like putting you on the spot, but we're big boys. We've been around a while.
Of course, definitely, and like I say, I lose to Jesse Vargas. I've got no shame in losing to Jesse.
Of course not.
Bear in mind, I don't want people to think, I've got lost. When people jump on the bandwagon, Steve.
Yeah.
Or he's already thinking about losing. No, but what I'm saying is, I'm comparing it to the last fight with the father, the local bragging rights. I lost that. I couldn't have lived with myself, and it would have ruined everything I've ever done. On paper, I lose to Jesse. I've lost to a 2-weight world champion, a very, very good fighter.
Yeah.
So I can live with that. But the aspirations I've got going forward, I lose to Jesse, they're finished. Yeah. If I lose to Jesse, I've got no warrant of challenging for a world title. I've got no warrant of being in big fights. So that's where it's a must win. It's a must win for where I want to go in my own head and my own career.
You seem, Liam, and you seem like fresher and younger. I mean, have you changed something that you're doing
Momentum,
drastically?
Steve,
you know what I mean?
Momentum. From when I was back with Frank Warren, when I signed with Eddie, I've always begged for momentum and fights. And even with Jesse pulling out February, we fight April 30th. I'll have had 3 12-round fights in 12 months. That's still an active year.
Yeah.
And I should have fought Jesse's February, so that would have been 3 12-round fights in 9 months.
That's going somewhere, isn't it? In 2020, 21, 22, 20, that doesn't happen. Let's get it right.
No, it doesn't. And I went from, I took the Russia fight because I had 17 months out the ring.
Yeah.
But activeness, momentum, I've always begged for that. I thought, give me momentum, let me be active, and you'll see the best of me. And I still stand by that. I still feel I'm fresh. I still feel young. And I've got grey hair, Steve, but I've had grey hair since I was 28.
I've had no hair in grey hair, so don't worry, son, about that.
I still feel fresh, and I feel I'm getting better and better with momentum, and I think Jesse will feel that on Saturday.
Now, Madison Square Garden, so you've been in bigger venues, obviously with Canelo, but I think it's going to be. I don't know. I want to know what you think. What do you think it will be like when you walk out in there on Saturday night in the big house? I mean, this is big enough. This arena here is big enough. Yeah. But upstairs, 18,000 or 19,000 or whatever.
Again, I think I'll just have to embrace it, milk every minute of it. Madison Square Garden, for the kids who didn't want to box. I did not want to box, so I can't say I've to this my whole life because I hadn't. So obviously from the age of 18, when I did know I love boxing, I'm going to become a boxer, then I've to moments like this. But for the kids who didn't want to box, now to become an eventer, chief support at Madison Square Garden, I fought Vegas.
It's fairyland, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And when I sit back and take my head away from it, I think, you know what, I'm proud of what I've done.
Now, was it the last fight or the fight before where there was a picture of you playing football the next morning?
Both.
Is that because I know we've joked about this in the past. So it is genuine, isn't it? It's not like a fake picture from a week earlier.
Steve, I still love football more than boxing, probably.
Don't tell anyone you're on a boxing pod.
I know, but like, it just, I can't. I'm not a liar. I don't tell lies. I'm straight in boxing and I'm straight with interviews. So when I got home from Russia, the following morning I played football, and that was the video you see me going on sub.
Yeah.
Then the day after Fowler, I played a full 90 minutes, but I turned up not wanting to play, and we only had 11 men. I said, look, I'll play because I'm not stiff.
Yeah, of course.
But I've got so many stitches in my eye. I'm not heading the ball, so don't be screaming, get up and head it when I'm not jumping to head the ball. So they said, look, we won't. So I played and scored, and we won. So that was right after Fowler, still with stitches in my eye.
Oh, it's hard to invent. Leon, I'm going to say this, and I say this to all fighters that I like, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I will.
Enjoy yourself.
I'll embrace it all. That's what I mean. Yeah. I've embraced this whole week, and to be on a historic event that's going to be spoken about for years to come with the two ladies topping this bill. I'll brace every minute of it, and hopefully I'll put a show on myself.
Liam Smith there, Barry. Now, you and I have been ringside for an awful lot of his fights. I think he looks, I said to him there, you look fresh. He looks like a different person. And in all fairness, this is a terrific fight. Jesse Vargas brings an awful lot.
He does bring an awful lot, but what he brings is, I think, to me, a little bit of arrogance, which you need, I understand that. But I think he's overlooking Liam Smith. I think he sees Liam Smith and goes, who have you fought? But I would say this, who have you beat to Jesse Vargas? Yeah. No, I know he beat Saddam Ali to win the world title. He's lost a good man. You could say the same for Liam Smith. Yeah. But I think Liam Smith, at this weight, I think unless he's lost a step, I think that might be the only factor. I make him a big favourite. I really do. I think the physical strength. So you look at Liam Smith, Jesse Vargas. You look at Liam Smith, and you think he'll try and walk me down in straight lines. But we know when
he's a boxer.
It looks like that on the surface. When you look inside, he slips inside the track. He dips his legs. He slips punches coming forward, and he's a physically really tough, strong man. And
how about that line from him there, Barry? Talking about what's your main love, and him just unashamedly saying it's always been football first. But then that not revelation. I mean, we heard about it, but him telling us that even with stitches in his eyes, he went down and played football. And the day after beating Fowler, played football and said to them, "Listen, I'll play," and he managed to score, but I can't use my head.
I would say that's a fantastic story. Except the day after I won the world title, my car broke down. I was running down the motorway with a jerry can to get some petrol from the petrol station.
I think
I top his story, to be fair. But yeah,
is it true that when you were fighting once in the valleys, okay, and that's not me using casual racism, which I've been accused of several times this week, but was it true that one time in the valleys, when you were fighting in the valleys, that you had a coach of your fans travel up from Cardiff, and that during your fight, which you won, your coach driver got so drunk that you had to drive the coach back with all your fans in it? Is that true?
It is a true story. It was only from Newport to Cardiff, so it wasn't very far, but yeah, true. They all listen, when I used to fight, they enjoyed themselves more than I did, of course, and they all got drunk, and I had to drive the coach home. But I also, when I boxed Neil Swain up in the valleys also...
That was in the valleys?
I got left in the arena and had to hitchhike home. True story. That's a true story. I had my dressing gown in one hand, I had my cash in the other, and my bag with my boots in.
But you eventually won a world title in a major arena on a major night. And in fact, I think about this guy who I talk to now, Galal Yafai. I've known Galal for a long time, way before he went to 2016 Olympics, long before he was competing at the top level, long before he went to Tokyo and came away with a gold medal, long before that. And he's not changed. He understands and he remembers when he wasn't anywhere near where he is now. First fight over 10 rounds, he fights at the O2. Second fight over 10 rounds, he's fighting here. Galal Yafai is, as I said to him when I spoke to him, you're living a dream.
Nah, you know what? I've actually got my feet on the ground. I'm here to fight. I know it's a massive arena, massive occasion, but I don't let it get to me. You know, when I won Olympic gold, I was pretty laid back. You know, Olympic gold, that's done now. Yeah. Move on. And I remember we spoke before the Olympics. And like I said, if someone had told me I'd be in this position now, it'd be a dream come true. I wouldn't have believed them. But I'm here now, and I got to do what I'm good at, and that's fighting.
Yeah. That whole Olympic run, and we've talked about it before. You know, when I talked to you in Canada that night, I've talked to you before about the whole atmosphere of it. It's really odd, but you have to sort of get rid of that, don't you? That was it. That was the Olympics. Like all the other amateur stuff. That was that. It's all gone now. Now it's the pro game. Strange that. And you've got to close the door on such glory.
Yeah. You know what is that's the fight game though. Yeah. You know, if I live off that, then I might as well just drive off into the sunset and just live that life. But these guys that are coming to fight me, they don't care that I'm a Olympic champion. They don't care. They're coming to knock me out. You know what I mean? And this guy he'll provide a test on Saturday. But I'm sure I'll come through it and look good doing it too.
And obviously, you decided to do something. You decided to do something different. You said, I'm not going to do 4 rounds, 6 rounds. I'm not even going to do 8 rounds. I'm going to do fights that, on paper, are really competitive. And I applaud you for that, because I didn't want to wait 2.5 years to see if you could compete with the pros. We're finding out now.
Yeah, and that's my team as well. They know I'm good enough. Thank God I've been blessed with being able to box at a high level. And there's no point me fighting 4 and 6 rounders against guys that are trying to survive and I'm just going to knock out in a round or 2. It's something it's quite frowned upon for myself that I've looked before turning pro. So I couldn't have done the same thing. I want to test myself. I want to fight good fighters. I want to give the fans good fights. And I'm sure I will Saturday.
Now, Katie Taylor has been around for a long time. She was a superstar in Ireland in 2006, 7, 8 and 9, okay? Yeah. But you've been at events with her. You were both in 2016 Olympics. Yeah. Even in the events where she was, or events that she was at or she'd been at, her presence is enormous, isn't it? She has been a superstar in our business for a long time now, hasn't she?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And people might say, yeah, she's a superstar in women's boxing. Nah, she's a superstar in the whole of boxing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Good point.
She's someone I've looked up to. 2012 she won Olympic gold. 2016 we were at the same Olympics.
You were there, yeah.
I never thought I'd be fighting on the undercard now as a professional at Madison Square Garden, but crazy things happen in life and I'm blessed.
Just think about that. Katie Taylor, gold medalist, topping the bill upstairs, 18,000. Galal Yafai, gold medalist, topping the bill up there in 2022. It's hard to invent this stuff, isn't it? It's just brilliant.
Yeah, definitely, and it's something we've got in common, and it's like I said, it's a privilege for me. She's the Olympic champion, I'm an Olympic champion. Hopefully, I can have a few of her belts in a few years.
And one day it could be you.
Hopefully.
I fancy it, don't you?
I hope so, but we know that's not always the case. It can go 2 ways. Either I can be a superstar and a brilliant fighter, or I can be a has-been and someone who won Olympic gold and is not as good as what everyone thought. But I'm sure we'll see, and we'll find out.
And finally, I've got to ask you this question, because I always have to ask gold medalists this question. Where's the gold medal? Right now, where's the gold medal?
Literally in a shelf in my house, in my apartment.
What, in the UK?
In the UK, yeah.
In the UK?
Not here, I can't bring it here.
So is it wrapped in a sock or anything, or is it just on the shelf?
No, it's just on the shelf in a little box that we get given from the Olympics. I just keep it there every day. I haven't seen it for a while. I might go back and look at it. I miss it.
Yeah, fight there, and he's serious, because it's all very well people saying, "Oh, I'm going to have hard fights." No, I think he's serious. In fact, I know he's serious.
Yeah, he is. I think all I would say is that 10 rounder to 10 rounder, you can't go back with that. It's a dangerous game.
Yes.
But what he does have, he has that Yafai trait of being aggressive.
Yes.
Good to watch.
Yes.
But he's a special talent, Steve. He's just not being nurtured, he's being pushed, and that's the only way. But I think he's got that X factor that's going to take him to the top.
Yeah, and Eddie's obviously very comfortable pushing him. So Barry, we've had the head-to-head, and I thought there was some really good stuff in the head-to-head today. Not least the $1 million bet, and then Jake Paul saying, "I'm going to give your million, Eddie, to Amanda." That was a really nice line. I thought there were some really good lines today, and it was good to see the two of them together. We've had a closer look at Amanda, but you had an idea back in whenever this fight was announced who you thought would win, and then you've watched it a little bit over the last, 6 weeks or so, and you've been here for the last 24 hours. You've spoken to a couple of people. Today you got to hear them, speak them, and hear them, sort of speak to them and see them. Any change in your opinion, any change in what you think, or anything you've seen that's made you think maybe something different?
I'll stick, and we'll talk about that probably later on in the week, but I'll stick to who I think's going to win. Though it's not a confident pick. But what I did see was a much more confident, I don't know why I thought she'd be anything but that, a much more confident Serrano, and a much more physically bigger Serrano than I thought she would be.
Yeah.
And also, she like Katie Taylor gives nothing away.
Yeah, that's the
truth. She
truth.
always looks calm, relaxed, like, no, this is what I do, and I'm good luck, and let's get in there. And whatever she says, that's her face. But Serrano looked a little bit, not riled up, but a little bit, it's that feeling that it's getting to her. She wants to fight. She really wants to fight. And I think that might be a telling factor, because I think she's experienced enough to harness that energy into a positive force come Saturday night.
A positive force come Saturday night. Inside this, behind me here, over my shoulder, Madison Square Garden. Barry, thanks very much, son. You can wander off now, do what you like. Go and sit with that geezer over there and feed some pigeons, if you like. Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor, undisputed World Lightweight Championship of the World in a sold-out Madison Square Garden. They deserve it. Boxing deserves it. He will live up to it, trust me. We're in one of the greatest fight cities in the world. I know over the last 25 years, the MGM has had some great nights, and the O2 and outdoor arenas. I appreciate all of that, but there's something about the Garden. There's something about it. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed our pod so far this week. There will be one on Friday, and then there will be one from a restaurant called TikTok. I can see it from here after the fight. We'll also be live on 5 Live on Friday night between 9 and 10, and that will be myself, Barry, and Alicia Baumgardner, the world champion, and some surprise guests. It's been a great week. It's been a privilege delivering this all week. Stick with us. Listen to us on Friday. Carry on downloading us. We'll speak to you Friday, and then we'll see you after the fight. What a city. What a fight.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.